What is up, everybody? CP and SJ with you for another week of Every Day We're Covering, where we talk the world of sports, wagering, having a good time, barreling down on college football season, and we've got plenty in the football realm to talk about with you, both kind of pro and college here this week. SJ, we're tail end here, these dog days of summer. How you been keeping yourself occupied, getting ready for this football season here?
I mean, it does feel pretty close, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've been doing a great job keeping myself. I'm probably watching too much of this preseason, but that's about all. And it's also been we went over a few of the big fight cards recently, but there's been a little bit of a break now, so that was kind of filling in the gaps there. And I mean, a few here and there, but yeah, we're getting close. But it's definitely that itch is growing by the day. We we need some games here, just not only to have some fun, but just it's nice to throw on the TV and either care about a game a lot or not care about it at all, but just something to entertain those weekends.
Yeah, it's that weird period where it's like you can hardly believe it's so close, but you're also like just so itching for it to come. So when it hits, it's going to be like, holy crap, season's starting. Like it just kind of sneaks up on you, even though you're anticipating. It's just a weird thing. I don't know.
And there's always like a bit of like, I guess, I mean, maybe not. It depends on how invested you are, and if you got a team that you've really just been following your whole life, or if not. But either way, like there's a little bit of like anxiety or nervous energy, I guess you could call it, just of like the only news that usually comes out this time of year is like bad type of stuff, like season-ending injury or somebody gets arrested or get in trouble with a loss. So you're just like as long as it doesn't make the days go faster because there's like no real news coming out. But those are actually good days because then it's like, all right, well, everything's just kind of going as well as possible, and there's no extracurricular activities, at least anything you can control. Of course, injuries. I mean, it is what it is. Of course, no one you don't want that to happen to anybody, but it is part of the game.
Yeah. It's been extra weird for me as a fan this year too, since Iowa State's playing so early in that Dublin game. Like, and you got that build up, and of course, a lot of the talk is about the other stuff that's going on. Like the people making the trip. What
the river dance and all that.
Yeah. What the special tweaks to the uniform are going to be. All that kind of stuff. So, I will say I do think both schools have added a little wrinkle, and it is going to be cool. To see Iowa State, Kansas State out there because Iowa State just kind of added a little bit of a Ireland flag logo to the front of the helmet, that little white piece, they just stuck that in there and kind of snuck it in. And then they're going back to the Cyclone script, but with the red uniform, so it's a new combo for them, so I think that'll be cool. And then I will give the little tip of the cap to K-State, even though I don't care for them much. They're doing kind of like one of those kind of Gaelic patterns right down the stripe and down the middle of the helmet for this game. So that's kind of cool too. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's horked off and calling it some sort of appropriation too, but I think it's going to be a nice little wrinkle. Both teams seem to be really into the idea of the game, I guess.
I mean, I guess outside of just the things we talked about before, being like a tough game early in the season, having to travel so far, these games are a little tricky, even if it's within the U.S. The continental U.S. It's tricky when you're playing these like kind of neutral site big games early because you're like you want to kind of get into the experience and all that, but it's like, man, you haven't played a game yet, so you need to win. Like that's the most important thing, and you maybe go too focused on that and don't really enjoy the whole the whole event as it is. But I mean, that's what you're there for, is to win. So I guess it's just that maybe that's more for like the fans and that type of thing. But it's a little tricky just because of that, because you do want to how many people get to go to Ireland in their life, let alone get paid for, by and you get to see some sights or whatever and do all that stuff. But I mean, of course, like you said, the main thing is to win, but you do want to kind of take it all in.
Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act, I'm sure, for those guys when they're involved in that. And yeah, of course, the game, is wild itself. We saw that last year when everybody thought Florida State was going to be a good team, got knocked off. Turned out they were kind of dog poo, so it didn't matter. But it was still fun way to start the season. So yeah, very interesting. We'll see how that goes. But as we get rolling here on the podcast, we always like to talk about what we're drinking as well. I don't have any Irish whiskey over here, but I'll be going down a different route. I recently, unfortunately for myself, had a little bit of a milestone birthday that I'd rather not discuss the number, but I did get some gifts from some folks, so that was always nice. And one of my buddies this weekend gave me a 12 pack of this, and I can't remember, SJ, if you had mentioned this. I think that you've had this, but I don't remember if we talked about it at all on the show. But he gave me the garage beer, but the lime flavor, and I have to say I don't hate it. I don't it's not, I wouldn't go around saying this is the best thing I ever had. It is a little bit better though than I anticipated. Pretty good on far as the light beer lime scale is concerned. Like there's still a couple of craft ones out there in the area that I like better that are on that lime scale or whatever. But for just a light generic, not bad. I mean, it's good for cut down on a couple after you mowed some lawns.
Yeah, I will say, the first time I had it, I felt like I was like, I don't really care for this stuff, and it was just the whatever the regular, if you will.
Yeah.
I wasn't the lime. I don't know what they call it. Just the diesel.
Yeah.
And I didn't care for it, but I had somewhere some happy hour. I stopped by, had it, and I was like, I'll give it another try. It was a decent price, and it was on tap too, so that always helps.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't as I probably maybe give it another try again. So that definitely, it's some of those things that maybe grows on you a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not any Irish thing either, but kind of along those lines. I mean, European at least.
Mm-hmm.
From Main and Mill down there in Festus, Missouri, which is just off I think Interstate 55, like south of St. Louis. If you're kind of maybe heading St. Louis towards Memphis way, I guess you'd go right by it there, just south of the St. Louis metro area. But I mean, a lot of times let the weather dictate it. But I was like, man, we're talking about getting ready for football and ready for the season. So I was like, screw it. I picked up their what they call the October Festus. So clever name there as well. But the Main and Mill Brewing Company is who makes it. And it says it's biscuity with a toast of malt and notes of caramel. So I'm pretty decent. It's sometimes can get a little heavy on you with the Oktoberfest,
Mm-hmm.
but have to say, a couple three, and it still was okay. So it wasn't like one of those ones where you're just like a one and done, or maybe even two. It's not still an easy drink, even with a decent amount of 5.5 ABV. So pretty good there all around. I'd definitely drink it again and recommend if anybody sees this to snag yourself a couple.
There you go. I know that there always are folks that are kind of Oktoberfest connoisseurs, so to speak. They like to try, a bunch of them. It's a very popular style of this time of year, and it sounds like a good one to put on the list. I will say too, I wanted to give a little shout. I'm not going to go into detail because I got one that I'll talk about I think next week for them, but I do want to give a little shout out to the folks over in Council Bluffs at Full Fledged Brewing Company. I don't know if you caught last week. We had a little talk with a couple of their guys there, and they had a celebration this weekend. And I actually did have a chance to pop by because we were over in the area, so I stopped and did try a couple of the fun things that they were doing just kind of for the day or for the week, the small batch stuff. So one of them I will mention because I won't talk about this one moving forward because it was one of the just small batch that day of, I think, drinks. But they had they called it birthday grapes, and it was a lager that they used if you're familiar with the cotton candy grapes that get sold. Which is kind of a weird deal to me, but I'm not like a huge fan of that. But they use those like in the brew, so it was kind of got this light, a little bit of a fruity mixed taste in there, and it wasn't bad. I kind of enjoyed it. It was nice and crisp and light still, and had that little bit of different flavor. Yeah, again, not something I don't think you're gonna go pound a whole bunch of, but it was a fun little wrinkle that they threw in for the party. They had good band going. They had a nice little event, so good for them.
Yeah, those small batches can be interesting, and it's like, man, it's kind of like where you're just trying like when we talk about just try a little bit here, try a little there, and that's the time to do it, especially when you just get yourself like a small pour, samples, that type of thing. But yeah, I've never heard of grapes, let alone cotton candy grapes. So I thought that's a wild idea, but it's good stuff. I like it. But outside the box, we get too many talk about all the time. Everything's like pickle now all of a sudden, and then it'll be on to the next thing where hot honey seems to be
Yeah.
making a hell of a charge lately. I guess that just is a is a new invention. But so yeah, it's always something. So I'm sure we'll see a couple of those beers coming up too, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and they did have a couple different things too. And like I said, one of them that I'll talk about, I think, on next week's program. So I'll save that one for next time. That's what we're drinking here. A little talk there on the booze front. And it rolls right into our first topic. Might as well throw it in now because it definitely is relatable. The folks at Northwestern, of course, we've had a little bit of fun kind of poking fun at them the last couple of years with the makeshift stadium by the lake, that was kind of a picture painted to be way more picturesque than it really was. It's like, oh, we put up a couple bleachers and here's a stadium, I guess. But they're making the best of it, I think, this year. At least adding some wrinkles that are interesting. You sent me over the story, and not a bad idea. They're putting together a little kind of cocktail bar area. Right there next to the field, basically. So it's just going to be like a little hangout where you can go get all kinds of things like mimosas and mixed drinks and just kind of a little hangout spot. I mean, if you've got a weird setup, might as well kind of roll with it, SJ.
I think there's even a DJ involved, was there not? So
Yeah.
getting that club atmosphere going there and on the lakeside. No, I mean what we talked about several times. It always seems to come up, and I'm sure it will again later this season once we've maybe had a chance to attend a game or start reading some stories about people throwing bottles on the field again this season. But you got to kind of make it. You got to go above and beyond anymore to, especially with not only just the technology and what you have available to yourself at home, but also just with how prices have just, I mean, across the board, of course, everything in general, but let alone ticket prices. It's we made decisions recently myself where I'm just like, I'm not going to do this. I just can't. It can't justify spending that kind of money for something that doesn't seem to be giving me that kind of a value on the other end, whether it be a concert, a comedy show, a sporting event, whatever. It's like you got to kind of pick and choose, and to make somebody make the decision to go to the game, something like this would, especially at a place like this where it's not like it's on one of those places where it's like a lot of the Big Ten teams are like, oh, good, we get kind of an extra de facto home game because of the fact that it's most who was, especially if you're earlier in the season, who doesn't want to go to Chicago like in any time of year except for maybe the dead of winter, but it's usually an easy trip for most places, and that probably decent amount of your alumni base is probably there any one of those schools within that conference, and then you get a party in Chicago on top of that. So to maybe get your fans into it and just offer something else to kind of entice them and maybe give you a little bit of a home field advantage as much as you can seems like a good idea. And also, I mean, just they're going all in on this thing, because I know we said kind of we're poking fun, but that's a lot of it was because of the exaggerations that were out there. So he kind of couldn't just let it slide. It's like, let's be realistic here. But I do like, I mean, I think you can't always do this considering like how stadiums are set up, and of course you don't want to kill your capacity too much. I know there's a lot of stadiums that are trying to downsize somewhat, but not, you don't want to take out a whole south end zone for something like this. But a lot of schools have done it where you kind of like the little beer garden, if you will, call it that or whatever. And this, I guess, would just be like maybe like a smaller version of that. But as far as like the there wasn't like an official thing, but the rendering, if you want to call it that, the drawing, whatever they passed along, it kind of reminded me of they had similar setups to that when they had the NFL draft here in Kansas City. And basically just like you can do like a rooftop deck, and there was the bars below, and you could just walk up the stairs on the side, and then where whatever. And it was like obviously didn't hold much more than I don't know. I guess if you're maxed out, maybe like 75 people tops, if you were kind of really jammed in there. But it was still kind of like, yeah, this is a good idea. I've never seen anything like this. So yeah, that was kind of reminded me of that. And I was like, I could see where it could work, because that was a pretty good way to like if get away from the actual all the whatever the the Hall of Fame and then the Ring of Honor and all the games and all that going on. If you want to just go over and grab a drink and relax, maybe get some adult time, it was a good setup for that at least.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting idea, and they are going to have like kind of your typical bar setup or whatever with some big screen TVs, like you said, live entertainment is part of the I'm sure pregame activities. So yeah, interesting little deal. and it's a temporary stadium. Obviously, they're building a new place, so they have to do this for a couple of years. We've seen other places have to do weird things. I mean, Kansas is going to be back at their stadium, but it's still not like the full completion. They basically did three-quarters of it, and they've got the one side that they left intact for seating that they will then take down after this season is over, and then have the full one done for the following season. So, I mean, sometimes you have to get creative if you want to make those kinds of large-scale changes. You're going to have to either play somewhere else or create some sort of weird atmosphere. So, I guess hats off to Northwestern for at least trying something different to, like you said, maybe create a better atmosphere for people to want to be interested and come have some fun at the game. So definitely interesting. We'll see how it goes once it's actually open. If we get some reaction from folks that experience it. Another thing that we wanted to talk about on the college football front, a real brief hit here, and we'll talk more about this as it comes to us a little bit later. But ESPN, no surprise, is working on a tribute show for Lee Corso. He's going to come back to make his final, appearance on College Game Day for the Texas-Ohio State game. I guess that's the first place that he ever did the headgear was at Ohio State, so it's kind of a full circle moment for him, and that's cool that they're able to do that. They have also said that they're not going to continue that portion of the show for the rest of the season. It's just going to end with him. Which I guess, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about that a little bit because it always is something that people look forward to so much. Now, part of it was because of him, so that it's hard to say, oh, just plug some other, doofus in there and let them do it.
Plenty of doofuses to choose from.
yeah, no kidding. So I don't know. I guess my thought is probably what's going to happen is they're going to not do that for the rest of this season. And then maybe they'll consider some similar thing down the road. It might not be exactly the same way, but as long as it's not McAfee taking his shirt off every week, and then we'll be okay. But it is cool that he's getting his due because obviously a guy that is a big part of creating what that show became.
Yeah, you can't do enough to honor the just kind of the impact he's had on at least that portion of the college football, I guess the sports, the broadcasting portion of it, you want to call it that, even, I don't know what, it probably wouldn't go as far as to say journalism, but as far as, honoring him, like, you can't do enough. And I will say, we'll probably, something might come up later where we touch on this, where ESPN has plenty of faults these days, but when it comes to, like, when they actually, like, put their efforts towards, like, and it's more usually like the documentary side of things, or like the, when Aldi was there and they do the, make everybody cry type of stories, and outside the lines or stuff, E60 stuff, like they still aren't really, they're kind of unmatched to me, at least. Maybe HBO is about the only one that can really, like the HBO Sports, at least, about the only one that can really hold the, kind of maybe say they're in the same league as them as far as how, the whole the package, from start to finish, and the production quality, and let alone just the access and the interviews and that type of thing they get. So that's good, because they need to do something like that. And I hope they kind of go focus on him. Don't worry about the guys that are doing it now. Of course you get, like Kirk and Chris in there, just because, and then Reese too works with him quite a bit, Reese Davis, but you got to really focus on him and don't worry about who's doing what now, and just kind of make it there. The thing I didn't get about the headgear stuff was like, man, I guess we, forget that, the Zoom got us through how many years of life, and now it's just like, oh, we can't use virtual anymore. It's dead. It's done for. Like, we lived like virtually for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Some people are lucky enough to still get to do that, and we're just like, it can't be done. Like, just send a damn, a cameraman and a production assistant out to his house weekly or whatever, and help him out and say, do your headgear pick, and send it back to ESPN. You can edit it and fit it in the show. Like, it doesn't have to be that hard. He doesn't have to pick every game. Just let him pick the, I know, because then I know you can't do it all ahead of time because you don't know the games you're going to be at. That's fine, but unless they think his health's that bad, where they can't do that. But to me, it seems like there'd be a way to, as long as he's willing to do it and wanted to. And maybe that's the other thing. Maybe he didn't want to.
Yeah.
But they might. I think they're going to have to come up with just like some type of like, main pick guy, if you will, or I don't know what you want to
Yeah.
call him, because they're gonna have these celebrities come on every week. That's kind of been like established, but maybe you don't do the mascot. Hey, maybe think of something else and kind of go a different direction. You can still be creative and think of something else, but that'll probably come next season. I just once if you're not gonna let him do it and not gonna like kind of pass the torch,
Hmm.
right now, then you got to pick totally something different and have somebody else do something starting next season, I would think.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right too. They always do a great job of the documentary type pieces, and hopefully that's what this is done well. Like I do think it's cool because I saw the list, and they are going to let like a bunch of people come back to say something about him that worked with him over the years, even if they are at other networks now. So that's good that they're allowing that to happen. But like you said, hopefully the focus is on him. Like just the sheer amount of time that the man has spent connected to the sport is just insane. When I saw it, the little layout, I was like, you got to be kidding me. I didn't even know that. I mean, I knew he was in it for a long time, but we're talking, over 60, almost 75 years were over things that he's done, because he obviously was a player, then he was a coach, for like 3 decades, and then spent the past 38 seasons as part of ESPN's college football coverage. So really crazy the amount of time and effort that he's put into it. Usually we see that in whatever we do in life. Like if somebody hangs around long enough, you're going to recognize them just for the sheer fact that they spent that much time doing it. But the fact that he also had a big impact and was a big part of elevating the eyeballs and the interest in the sport, I think makes it even, obviously that much more worthy. And he's hopefully going to get his proper send off.
Yeah, another interesting, and maybe the most interesting thing, I guess, the biggest compliment you could say is, I don't know of and I guess I don't know every college football fan, but I've come across a lot in my time just following the sport and just traveling different places, and you just don't hear a lot of people being like, man, I freaking hate that dude, he's so annoying. And considering,
Yeah.
especially who's on like TV these days, and it's like basically it's 50-50 that you like him or you don't with who you talk to, and there's not saying he was like had the best analysis, or he was had all the best the mind for stats or anything like that, but as far as like his personality, how he like came off as like an on-air talent, there's not a lot of people that are like, man, that dude's just a total dumbass. I think no one's ever really, of course that's just speaking of, I don't personally, individually, that's something totally different, but as far as doing that job and being professional, I think he did a good job of that, and still like entertaining, because it gets tricky when we've seen people come on the show and they try to kind of do what he's doing, and then they go a little bit too far and it gets a little bit out of sorts, and they end up hosting the ESPYs after that, and then it's then comes another train wreck. So just because you made a couple good jokes about Saban, so that's what happens when you go a little bit too far into one good showing.
Yeah, it's definitely had a knack for kind of rousing up crowds and having a good time, like just getting them engaged, I guess, was the big part. And I think a big part of why you when you say that people, not a lot of people really disliked him, I think that's just because he was a pretty easygoing guy. Like he was always having fun with it. There was not a lot of, you never saw much negative coming from him, like he might make a joke here or there, kind of dig at somebody, but it was always in jest.
Dropping F-bomb is about the worst thing. Well, and I think that to me, the thing that probably makes that, was the case, made that the reality that we're perceiving it to be, is that he seemed like he was being himself. He to me that he was the best actor ever to walk the earth, because it did seem like that's just who he was. He was just kind of like a little bit crazy, but not like over the top, but just like really loved college football, and you could tell that that's all he really wanted to do, ever wanted to be around.
Yeah, for sure. So it'll be fun to watch that when they get it out to us, and of course watch his final send off there at the shoe. Which should be a fun game, obviously, to start the season too. We're going to move on here into some more talk. This is a little bit more NFL focused here for the next couple of topics we're going to dive into, and they all kind of have their little bit of fingers connecting them, I think, too. We'd already talked about the last couple of shows, the pending and then the confirmation of the merger or part ownership, I guess, that the NFL now is getting in the ESPN franchise. The ESPN's going to, run NFL Network and the Red Zone channel. And then, of course, now they have that ability to work that into other sports as well. We're probably going to see a very similar. I mean, they've already done it a little bit on the college front, but I think it may be a ramped up version of that too, coming to the college football side of it also. So that's another little wrinkle, I guess, that connects that level. But we talked about that happening. And then since that was announced, there's been some kind of interesting little digs going back and forth, I guess, from people in the media realm, and I think people bringing up good points, and one of those was you sent me a couple of pieces, and I had seen one, I think, the day too that you sent it to me, of Michael Wilbon, who is a longtime ESPN guy, big part of what they've done over the last couple decades. A lot of folks are very familiar with PTI and the concept, I guess, of that show that changed things on the daytime sports front. But he basically just kind of got fed up and was like, calling out the network for spending too much time talking about certain teams or driving storylines where they're not there. And it was in relation to the Dallas Cowboys, which, of course, we all know have for a long time had maybe too much attention placed on them. Yeah, they had one hell of a run back in their heyday, and that's why they became very popular. But it seems like ever since, there's always been that little nagging piece that's out there. And a lot of times, storylines get drawn the direction of that team where maybe it's not really of the public's interest in general. We're trying to create things to divert attention that direction where it maybe doesn't need to be. And I think that was his point. We spend too much time bullshitting about this team where what have they done? They stunk the last, however many years. So I think it was just an interesting moment media-wise because somebody, I guess putting their ass on the line just to say, hey, I don't think we're doing this right. And just, I guess, to have the courage to talk about it.
I mean, if he wasn't been on TV, though, the last however many years, almost on a daily basis, I wonder, has he been in a coma? Because Dallas is like an example of, as of late, but it's like the Patriots, Yankees, Notre Dame, like we'll go down the list, like where you've been. And it's, why it's just the I guess you call it that now, but before it was like, the eyeballs, but the clicks or whatever, that we know why it's done. And I get the frustration because, I'd be there with a lot of those topics as well. But I mean, you do have a television show where you could not talk about that team for
True.
yourself, at least. And I've seen several times they've brought them up because they know Jerry Jones is going to say something. It's going to be an easy topic for them. And no stat boy back in the day for them to talk about and go back and forth. But yeah, so it's I mean, yeah, he's not wrong, but also it's like, do you know where you've worked for the last however many decades? It's just kind of par for the course, and that's not just ESPN themselves. That's just the networks and online entities in general. It's whoever's going to drive the traffic. I mean, well, there's some other issues been coming up across the board lately of just like what is this? But people didn't want. They got mad when journalists did their job or went above and beyond and tried to say that they were making it about them. And then you get the other side of it where it's just this, the bar stools of the world taking over. And then you're just going to get a bunch of, toilet humor in between your timeouts.
Yeah. You're not wrong on that front. And you are right in pointing out that I guess, they have the ability to not help drive that narrative themselves, certainly. And yeah, it obviously is a part of their show for a reason too. And there is that bit of it too, where, at some point it becomes a shtick and people like it, whether they hate the team or they love them. It's funny to talk about them if they're doing something stupid. Like people love that on the other side of it. And obviously Jerry Jones is, a guy that wants attention. He loves he loves to have these storylines brought up. And again, whether you love it or hate it, you usually like to hear about it, either to make fun of it or because you're a diehard supporter of the team and you're blinded and always going to believe that he's going to do great things. Like that's part of it too. That's kind of the culture, I guess, that we have, unfortunately, is, we love to give attention to people that say stupid things.
Well, even with this, the latest Micah Parsons stuff that's been coming up over and over, it's like I'm almost like not even taking it seriously because it almost feels like Jones was just saying stuff to, oh, you need to be in the headlines. We
Yeah.
got to be out there, and it's almost like it's like his yearly routine. And like, I mean, I'm not a fan of the team, so if he leaves, it doesn't really. So I might feel differently if I, because you don't want to lose a player like that. We saw with Barkley and the Giants how that played out, with them kind of taking him lightly and just being like, he's just, he's not serious. He won't leave, and then sure enough, he's winning holding the trophy up with your hated rival soon after that. So I mean, I don't have that perspective of it where I'm worried about losing him, but I'm almost like, this is just kind of like one of those preseason just way to get your name in the headlines, and just loves the drama, kind of wants to be in the middle of everything, no matter if it's good or bad. That's how I'm looking at it. But who knows? We've seen a lot of players kind of, when you think that's not even an option to change teams, and the next thing you know, they're somewhere else before the next season even starts.
Yeah, no kidding. So that was one thing that came up, and it was kind of an interesting topic related to, I guess, NFL, ESPN stuff, and I think that's coming into a little bit more of the crosshairs right now, as far as at least the coverage type stuff is concerned, because of this announcement. That the NFL has a vested interest now in ESPN, so of course ESPN's going to do favorable things to promote the NFL. Not that they didn't before, but now they have a pocketbook interest to make it grow and to make it sound great all the time. So then you do get into that world of, are we, where is journalism going to be a thing from the ESPN front? Are you going to be able to objectively, call out the crap when there's crap? And Dan Patrick had made a comment kind of to that effect on his show recently, and he had Mike Florio on to talk about how that deal happened, and other networks were interested in it, and almost happened, I think, for a couple of other networks before ESPN got the deal done. Something, I guess, that the NFL's been interested in for a long time, because the NFL Network never became what they wanted it to be up to this point. But he was just kind of pointing out that, yeah, it's going to be hard to be an impartial, effective journalism entity when you have an interest in the league now, which I don't think anybody disagrees with. But then there was a reporter who got very upset with those comments and kind of took it personal, kind of calling him out, saying, well, you didn't realize that I had done this big, long expose piece on the NFLPA and blah, blah. So he came back and he was apologetic, saying, yeah, I didn't know that. I knew about these other stories because this is what I pay attention to. When I left ESPN, I don't pay attention to ESPN. That's just kind of my philosophy. Stuff gets brought to my attention from my staff for my show, but I'm not seeking it out. So just kind of one of those interesting pissing battles a little bit as far as media egos go. But I think he has a point. But I think SJ, I know how you're going to maybe chime into this too. Is was that something that was really a big piece of the puzzle before this deal was made?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it when we were started off earlier there about just what is the existence of journalism in sports, especially with these big. Of course, they're still out there. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good and talented individuals, but when it comes to these major networks, it's not the focus. And I don't think it really has been. To me, I'm trying to think back in my head, and when you're kind of going through just the details of the story, thinking even when DP was there, I was like, was it journalism really? Because I mean,
yeah,
you have stuff that's outside the lines. That was pretty hard hitting. Sports reporters on Sunday mornings was more of digging deep into stuff. But I mean, don't get me wrong, that was great. With the big show and but you're reading the box score.
Yeah,
you're just telling the highlights. You're not investigating anything. Here and there might be an injury or something you might get wind of or something like that. But it's not like you're other than a Jeremy Schaap. Someone like that, you're not really going out and digging and kind of knocking on doors and doing that type of thing. So I do think he's right as far as I can see the aspect of a conflict of interest. But if you'll remember that, they had that Playmaker show back, 20 some years ago, and it was essentially, kind of put a black eye on the league as far as some of the, goings on behind closed doors that people maybe knew of or just weren't aware of. And the general public in large wasn't aware of certain things, and it was alluded to kind of like where they did the winning time deal with the Lakers on HBO, and it's kind of some of the stuff behind closed doors. People just start talking, and that gets out. And even ESPN, would they put that book out a while back? Had to been at least a decade ago. It was like, guys, these guys have all the fun or something, but it was about like Dan Patrick and Stuart Scott and Rich Eisen, and they kind of got with his author and told basically their wild tales of their time at ESPN. And so that type of thing, I guess you could maybe see some value to it. But as far as like what they kind of made their name for, it wasn't really journalism. It was more just sports entertainment, I guess, is more the thing you label it as. So I do see like the point of it, and I mean, I guess I could maybe see why that guy was perhaps offended, but considering how most of those guys left ESPN, any chance they get to kind of go at him, I'm sure they're going to jump on it too. It's not like that, Oberman and him weren't exactly even on good terms, but I mean, Eisen wants back now. He said that they got NFL. He says, that was was quoted the other day, like, I'm going back now that they have the NFL Network. So, I mean, that was the main reason he left, was because they didn't have a decent NFL schedule anymore. And then the Monday Night Football games they were getting were basically and I think a lot of that ties back to that, playmakers and harsh in that relationship was what's the worst game we can give them. And they had that for how long, and they're just like, no one watched Monday Night Football for years because it's like, this is not even a good game. And they'd be starting at, West Coast game on like 5:00 out there and stuff. It was a mess.
Yeah. Well, and that's something too that he brought up as far as that, I guess that portion of it is concerned, that if he's like, if I'm a member of one of these other networks, like, I'm concerned because now they're going to get a great game for Monday Night Football. The NFL's going to make damn sure that, and yeah, I mean, it makes sense for them to do that when they have a vested interest in it. Obviously, they have partnerships that make them money with these other networks too, so it's not like it's a total FU kind of situation. But yeah, I mean, I would be a little concerned if I'm sitting at NBC and like, are you going to give me the good game still? Like, I mean, I know you can't guarantee that anyways in the grand scheme of things, but
I mean, it'd be more like the flex thing, and I think that's probably the smartest thing they ever did as far as TV goes. It's like, because it's hard to, but when a league that's that, as much parity as there is in that league, you got to have some flexibility with that. And I will say though, for we bring up the it'd probably come up again this year, but the apps and all the streaming, because I know what Big 12 just got some basketball deal with Peacock, right, and some other sports going on there on the app. So I did as far as my research and my investigative skills could tell, it sounds like some of the if you're a whether you be like a DirecTV or a Comcast or even YouTube TV, you have some type of a cable provider, it sounds like you will get a lot of this ESPN streaming, their new app they're launching, the DTC, direct to consumer crap that they're calling it. It sounds like you'll get a lot of that. So that is good news, at least, because I was like, man, am I going to have to, and there's a lot of stuff I don't think I would care about, but if there's, one or two things on there you want to see, it's like, well, you better get the app. So I was kind of figuring out, am I going to have to switch my Plus to this one or whatever? But sounds like those customers at least should be in pretty good shape. At least that's the initially. Now, who knows what they're going to do when they see these subscriber numbers, but that's what I've heard to this point.
Yeah, that is a good point. And I did see that the statement from DirecTV specifically saying that, this is going to be part of the sports package or whatever, so to speak. So I think that's good news. The more options that you give people in general is always better. If we can make that happen in different ways, that's good. The other and obviously as we're sitting there talking about that too, like, I'm thinking to myself when we're talking journalism and sports, like, entertainment is the first letter in the damn network. Like, I mean, that's what it is, priority number one, and it's what we want sports to be. That's why
there's not
we
wrong
watch
with it. It's not like I don't think it's like the work. I mean, they've gone too far in some ways, but I don't think it's like, I don't know, that saying that you're not. It's not like it's a scarlet letter that you're not journalists. Yeah.
I mean, we want it to be. We want it to be entertainment. It's an escape from life. Like, we're not always looking for the seedy underbelly, which we know exists. Like, people don't necessarily want to hear about that as much because we're not there to, like, we're trying to escape real life crap. Like we don't want to hear about that. I mean, yeah, there's got to be some of that still to keep things in check, and you want it to have an iota of integrity to it. It can't just be a circus. But yeah, it's definitely going to lean that way, and we know that. So that's part of it.
I mean, just with your, in general, you work at an office or whatever you work, there's a lot of stuff probably going on up on the higher levels of your building that maybe you either don't know about or just look the other way. So it's just kind of life in general. We don't always need to get to the bottom of things, but and especially with sports, it's like, man, this is we're trying to have some fun here. Like I do enjoy like this shows I mentioned as far as like I was kind of sucked to see like outside the lines going, and I do think sports reporters has made a comeback or is making. I got to get my I just don't have as much free time as even I thought I would have when we were talking earlier about leading up to the season. But I know I seen I think it was from Shap himself a while back about saying bringing the sports reporters back together. I don't know if it's just an online deal or what it is. I need to get my hands on that, but stuff like that I enjoy from time to time, even like the E60 stuff or just I do think Netflix does a good job with their documentary stuff, and I mentioned HBO too. Like you enjoy it, but it's not what you want for like a 24-hour loop. You're like, oh, it's a good story, I'll check this out, and then I'll watch games the rest of the day, or I'll come back to that next week or the week after. It's part of it, but it's not like if you're going for that, you better go to like a more of a news source than an entertainment network, like you said. That's the name.
Yeah. I mean, we have always interest in like peeking behind the curtain a little bit, or getting the behind the scenes story. That's always interesting to some degree, and yeah, how that happens obviously comes from other places usually. But the other little wrinkle to this that I do think is interesting, just from and this is not necessarily sports specific either. I don't think it's just the way that the world has morphed. Like, when it comes to news in general, like everybody wants to be their own reporter, so to speak, now, because we all have cameras and microphones and whatever whenever we need them. And a lot of that happens. Stuff gets posted online, social media, whatever. And that's how people interpret the world sometimes, unfortunately. But I think one of the downsides that we're starting to see is, just the lack of some form of real coverage happening to the things that you want to know about. And I saw a little blip the other day that I thought was interesting from Joe Shad, who used to work for ESPN. He covers the Miami Dolphins now, and I still had him, on my Twitter feed, so I see his stuff. And he was talking about after the Steelers game the other day. Mike Tomlin had his post-game presser and basically came on, made his statement. They make their opening statement or whatever, and then they were like, "Anybody have any questions?" And the room was silent because I don't think there was anybody there covering Pittsburgh to ask him a question. So he was just like, "Okay, that's easy," and walked off. I mean, he no skin off his back. He doesn't care. But and Shad's point was like, if you're rooting for journalism to die and change, this is what you're getting. Like, you're just not getting the coverage that you think that you probably should get. And he's like, it hurts everybody, because not only you're not getting that local angle to find out the little more details that you probably want as a fan, but then the aggregators aren't getting anything either because that stuff's not coming down the line. And it's a bad deal. So I think we're cutting off our own heads sometimes when we think that, oh, there's so much of this, and then places start to cut back because they don't want to spend the money. But then we're kind of coming out on the other end of it with nothing.
It's one of those things that I think people don't realize, that once it's gone, like how the value of it isn't really readily visible because it's not like a quantifiable thing. What was it, last football season? It seemed like it was almost mid-season, but I know. I don't know which conglomerate it was of newspapers, but they pretty much, I guess, got outed. I don't know if you even want to call it that because they probably didn't care, didn't lose any money, but they were literally using AI to write game stories, and it was just like so obvious. And it's like, first of all, nobody talks like that, and secondly, like, it's inaccurate information. But that's the kind of things you're going to get. And then you talk about budgets are cut, and then people aren't paying to send people there, or they're sending somebody who's either like not trained or equipped to do the job, and they're kind of just getting the bones of it and just going off the little notes in the people that the sports information people are handing you between every timeout and break, and like, oh, this is good enough for me, I don't need to go ask any questions. So I mean, it's you try not to, you kind of haven't been in the business trying to be like biased or like dramatic about it, but it's like the bad thing about it is if people complain, they're like, oh, ask stupid questions, not doing your job right, but when these jobs are gone, they don't come back. Like that's
Yeah.
the thing, a lot of people don't realize, like you're not, you're already underpaid and overworked, and then people either find another job, or these companies go under and these newspapers don't even exist practically, besides maybe a post online here or there, but don't have like an actual, I mean, right here in we don't even have like a legitimate brick and mortar building for the Kansas City Star. It's they have an office, but it's not like it was.
Mm-hmm.
There's no printing. There's a beautiful building they have with a printing press right there and everything. It's vacant now, and it may become the Kansas City Royals baseball stadium facility within the next few years. So that's just I guess that's the life of the business, but it's just not to call out and say anything bad. It's just like that's just one example of, there's probably hundreds of them across the country of just, there's probably more to a bigger extent, but it's just the reality of where it's going, and like I said, just like you're not gonna get back what you had, and it's almost like, to me, I'm thinking like it's pretty much, it's too late now, but I'm not. It's nice that people are kind of pointing out that here's your harsh reality, and you just gonna have to live with this going forward.
Yeah. And you talk about, yeah, there are the other situations too where there are idiots there that are asking just like tons of dumb, ridiculous questions. We don't like that scenario either. And sometimes, I guess, to people from the outside, they perceive that as ridiculous too, because it's like, why are we getting so serious or so goofy about these topics or whatever? But like in this scenario, I mean, yeah, okay, it's a preseason game. The game itself maybe isn't the story, but this is the time of year where people want to know, who's playing well, who's going to make the team, what this guy do better than the other guy to deserve to be in the first guy on the field. All those kinds of things that are maybe even more important than what happens, the rest of the season. So yeah, you're missing that, and I think the other hard part of this too is you're eliminating the potential for a more legit journalist to be there, because obviously there are other entities that have either cropped up, or everybody can try to do it now, and that's fine. You can start your own online whatever, and we've seen that in so many ways, covering college teams, pro teams, whatever it is. And sometimes people eat that shit up, especially if you're feeding it to them on the right platform.
Yeah, you get good at Photoshop, and who knows where that can take you.
Exactly. But yeah, but then also it's harder to vet those people. Like, are they legit? I mean, do they know what they're doing? Are they just feeding me bullshit because they can? And there's no, sometimes for those people there's less consequence. If they do, whatever, okay, whatever. Like, you come, I guess, sue my fake company or whatever, and I'll disappear into the night at the end of the day. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's an interesting deal, because I mean, I'm not sitting here saying that I don't think the world is changing and the way people consume things is changing, and that's part of the reason why, especially when it comes to like the newspaper industry, it's different. People don't go and buy the newspaper and pick it up in their hands anymore, and that's hard to adapt to and overcome. But we're finding other ways, I guess, to consume, and there's got to be some sort of connection that's still made to something that you deem as a respected, source to go to, is I guess what I'm getting at.
I mean, this was within the last, couple of weeks or whatever, but the deal with the Raiders and the defensive lineman who got, they let him go for, some internal incident that happened. And I believe it was Schefter and somebody else going back and forth, but one of them was, I think it was Schefter's getting accused of it, but he might have been the accuser either way. But they're like saying that like they were kind of, at the beck and call of the player's agent to not report the full story, because it was the deal where the defensive lineman supposedly had kissed a teammate on the forehead, and then it was all blew up, and then he went somewhere, and he got cut, and then the press conference was another player kind of had some interesting comments about he needs mental help or seek help, and so I mean, just these type of stories, it's like, and those are, I mean, about as close as you're going to get to like an investigative type of guy, or you would think somebody that portrays himself as that. And if they're there's some maybe some what do you want to call it, some confidentiality issues there, or some conflict of interest, kind of like the
Yeah.
ESPN thing with guys like that, then I mean they're supposed to be whatever the exclusive guys,
Hmm.
the insiders that know everything, so if they're kind of in that mindset, in that mode, what does that tell you about everybody else? So, or potentially everybody else? It's not a guarantee, but so that just, I mean, there's just an example there of kind of like how things have changed, because you want to break the news and get the scoop, but like at what cost? Because I mean, it's not a secret, even going back to just when it was like type of newspaper days, people paying for scoops and breaking that type of thing, breaking news. That's not a thing, but
Hmm.
you want it to at least be honest and accurate, and not leading people, misleading your readership and your audience, just because you want to keep this relationship going with one individual.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're always going to have those types of things, and that goes to speak for every type of business. Whoever you make good friends with, there's always going to be some inside leverage here and there. But yeah, we still want some sort of accuracy and accountability, I guess, when it comes at the end of the day, that they're able to speak their minds and get you the information you want to know. So yeah, it's a weird world. I mean, that whole topic obviously has been morphing for a long, long time, and is going to continue to go that way. When we could dive into a lot of different things, when it comes to the media world. But I think those are interesting points that have been brought up recently, especially when it comes to how that whole recent merger has happened, and there's just kind of lots of things that work in with each other on that front. So times are changing. Speaking of coverage of things, I know SJ, you had a little bit of a comment you wanted to make about the old what a lot of folks loved for a while, the old Hard Knocks franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it goes to kind of the same lines of just the who's receiving the product. But it for some reason it's become like, and this isn't even just like, I don't know why, at least 3 or 4 or 5, probably go back further, because there's a lot of people I speak to that are football fans that say they haven't watched the show for a while, and that's fine. I don't care, but it just seems like it's kind of like, set your clocks by it. And once the first episodes premieres there in early August, the Wednesday after, because they've been pretty much Tuesday nights for a long time, showing those episodes. The Wednesday morning after, it's going to be like, oh, this show sucks. I hate this. I don't even know why it's on. And then it's like, well, you don't have to watch it. I guess that's just my biggest takeaway. It's like, it's become like I mean, I characterized it to you before as it's like the Nickelback of NFL shows, where it's like apparently nobody watches it, but it's still on, and it's still, I just don't think that they're going to spend that type of money, especially whatever you think of the show. A lot of time and effort and money, like I said, is spent to produce these shows. So they're not just going to throw it away for the fact that they've been doing it for that long. We've seen things go away for less. So I don't know. It was most of the thing that come up, and I was just like, we're still. To me, I was like, "Where's people are still complaining about this? Like, just don't watch it." I mean, and I actually do. Like, I enjoy the show. I still like it. That's the only I get my max back for a month or like 2 months, because they're smart and they make a 5 week season, so you can't just get 1 month.
Uh,
You got 2 months. But that's the only time I get max is the HBO Max or whatever the app is. I do want to watch Hard Knocks, because and to me it's like, I guess, and maybe I'm just trying to do this to think of to prop it up a little bit, but to me it's like there's still some decent, like, something in there. You just got to kind of read between the lines. It's not as out front as it used to be.
mhm.
I do wish that they'd kind of, and I know it sucks because it's like someone's life and personal stuff, and I think that's kind of where things went off the rails. But it's like, man, when they used to show players getting cut in that part of the show, like, to me that was kind of like, yeah, it's unfortunate, but I mean, it's called Hard Knocks. Like, that's like the
Mhm.
reality of the business. So I do kind of miss that. Kind of miss that aspect, and not that I'm happy to see people like lose their jobs, but you see these guys get cut, and then you'll see them for another team during the season. Like, oh, I remember that guy. He
Mhm.
got freaking. They wanted to keep him, but they couldn't because they had too many running backs
Yeah.
or whatever. Like, there's just interesting storylines like that you see, and it's almost like the Last Chance U on Netflix and
Yeah.
those type of shows where it's like, it's not like I'm not saying it's like the best television ever. It's like so well done, but I guess to me it's like, when you talked about peeking behind the curtain and seeing some other stuff, like, I think that's as close as you're gonna get, because it is gotten to be where it's more a little bit formulaic.
Yeah.
It's not like you're not gonna get free reign. I don't know why people ever thought that. They did a good job of like kind of like portraying it as like, oh man, the cameras are everywhere. They don't even know they're here. And when they first started, but now it's like technology is like so, people realize like
Oh
what's
yeah,
kind
they
of going
know.
on.
Yeah.
Like back it is different, like in the '90s and stuff, and even early 2000, where it's like, well, not everybody did have a phone, so you weren't as like aware of your surroundings. But now I
Hmm.
think more people are like, you kind of look around before, or it's like when you fall down on the ice and you get up and look around, make sure nobody saw that. That's just like life in general. You're like, make sure no one's even around before you do anything. So I don't think it's like the best show, but I do like I still think you can find enjoyment and like there's something there too. And to me, like and I can see why they didn't do it this year, but that preseason Hard Knocks like revealed more information than I thought you could ever get from like NFL GMs. As far as like when I brought up the Barkley thing earlier, it's like they literally I couldn't believe that I was like, am I getting like did I get a uncut like the cutting room stuff that wasn't supposed to air? Because I'm like, how could this guy literally
Yeah.
like the G approved and go on TV? Because I mean, the owner is always saying you cannot trade this guy, and then he's calling people like, "What would you give me for him?" Like 5 minutes after he walks out of the room, I'm like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like you're gonna lose your," and he's still employed.
Yeah.
He does his fucking job, like making millions. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
So I still think there's some value in it as far as like interesting and like I guess it's probably easier just like to dog on it, and I don't think it's like I wouldn't be like, oh, you got to see this, but if you watch it, I can see why you would. So
Hmm.
that, I mean, that was mostly the thing is like I don't know why it's still like I guess just a popular thing to talk bad about it. Like
Yeah.
if you don't like it, just don't watch it. I just don't understand. Like especially with being on Max, you have to kind of seek it out.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah. It's not right in front of you all the time. Like you're paying for it, so yeah, either pay for it or don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, I think that was what I was going to bring up. What you just referenced, like it obviously still has its value. I mean, how much did we all talk about that Barkley thing last year? You know, like that was a big story, and like it definitely gave you a big insight on this kind of wacky shit does happen. You know, like it's what you think as a fan sometimes. Like, oh yeah, this is what was going on, and you like never really believe it, but then you see it happen. And you're like, okay, yeah, like this is really the business. So yeah, there's still value to it, and I think when you talk about the camera side of it too, over time, I still think that that's probably going to even maybe become back to the other way where will become more and more valuable because we're getting so desensitized to
Yeah.
everything being filmed. At some point people just say fuck it, I'm just going to act how I'm going to act anyways, you know.
Well, you can say it's AI or it's it's not me. It was a
Yeah.
deep fake or whatever, and you can say that so that you got that excuse built in. So, but even with the show, just one more thing to touch on, going back to the Hard Knocks deals, like they doing the division thing in season, I think was a great move too because you have more than one. Obviously you have more options, and then if they make a playoff run, you can kind of go a little bit longer, and I think they do get a little bit of access then because maybe the guards down whether the coaches and players are focused on their goal of making the playoffs or going as far as they can. So I think that was a good move. I do think that's a thing. But I mean, honestly, like I mean, I don't regret paying whatever it is a month to sit there, but I want my money back for watching that damn Sinners. That freaking crap was awful. Like, do not watch that movie if you get the chance. That's what I would ask for a refund on. And I know that people are off the moon on that, but that was garbage. That's what these guys should be upset about watching those kind of movies.
Funny fun stuff. And the other just a little thing too to add on to that, as far as like the coverage stuff, like you've seen a lot of teams kind of do that own thing themselves now too to kind of give
Yeah,
you a little bit. I mean, yeah, it's way more probably controlled and scripted and whatever, but
they've
they're
used the same model. Like they're
yeah.
basically just copying it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Chiefs have done that the last handful of seasons, so yeah, it's nothing that people are really, I guess, shying away from, so to speak. Everybody loves content, whatever it is. If it's content, they want it, so that's not going away. The one thing that we wanted to kind of end on, I guess, I think is maybe a positive note. This was a story that you had sent me here recently, and we talk so much, obviously, about how the NIL world, everybody wants to focus on the bad things that become of it, and it's obviously a problem a lot of times with the money that gets thrown around and how we're going to manage this and how this is going to work and those types of things. But there also is good that becomes of it as well, and there are still good people in the world, I guess, is maybe the point of this. I mean, not everybody, but there's some good ones out there. Missouri's Damon Wilson donated $10,000+ to a youth football program in his hometown using NIL dollars. That's one thing that a lot of college football teams talk about, giving back to your community instead of just taking all the time, was one of his comments. So yeah, I mean, I think you've seen stuff like that. I know, obviously just because of the team I follow, like, and I think a lot of schools have seen this where, a player maybe hosts like a camp that they open up for free or something, or they give away something, like those kinds of things that necessarily weren't happening before, because either there was too many restrictions on rules on what could happen or be allowed, or, maybe in some cases where people felt like there wasn't a proper vested interest in it, they, put the kibosh on it, or the school was hesitant, to let them do something. But you're seeing a lot more of that, where guys are going out there, and even the making appearances at whatever thing. I know that's how a lot of collectives now have started to do, as far as generating revenue is, okay, we'll come to your charity thing, give us some money for the NIL fund for these guys, and then they'll come support your cause. I mean, I don't see anything, those are the good things. Like, why is that a bad deal? If somebody wants to, trade that type of scenario, it's better than, Joe Cotton down at the car dealership, just like, oh, hey, I'm going to give you a Lamborghini and throw a couple mil at you while I'm at it. Like, that's the stuff we want to see, and it's always good when we see those stories happen.
Yeah, I was glad to see that, and I think there's probably a lot more that obviously going on, and sometimes you probably don't want the spotlight, but it does need to be, more covered more as much as possible, at least, and even just a quick, picture, video, or whatever, just something, because I know, when you actually like truly want to like give back, you're not being like, hey, come meet me here so we can do an interview about this thing I'm doing. But I mean, otherwise you're not going to know about it though. So that's the other side of it. Because you see those videos, online. It's like, it's cool. Like someone, buys like 100 cheeseburgers for, homeless and hands them out. And then the first comment's like, too bad you had to record this. And it's like, well, I get that part, but also it's like, maybe he's like trying to impress on somebody else to like, to give back to, maybe not to that extent, but it's like, it's important to like help other people. So, I mean, both sides of it, but I just think this, especially being, a younger individual and someone is getting paid, making money here. And it's bothers people so much that they'll be like, well, they're not just putting it all in their pocket either. Like this guy, I mean, he's helping, who knows, maybe somebody on that kid ends up going to college because he got to play on this team and gets an opportunity to get an education he wouldn't have gotten before. So, I mean, that's type of things that are important. I think it's a good thing to spotlight. So, in any of these we find probably going to be, we'll be talking about them as much as possible because that's the good side of it. And I think there's, I don't know, it seems like it's pretty easy to like, and to me, it's more like you just don't want, a kid younger than you making more money than you. That's what it comes down to. And I'm like, I mean, I guess I get that. I mean, I've just never been a money guy. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone into journalism. If I cared about money, I would have done something else. But so when you don't have that to say, then like, what are you going to say next? So to me, it's like, we'll just spotlight the positivity we can with it and maybe go about that route. But yeah, it's a cool deal and good job on that, dude. And hopefully more to come here in the next coming weeks.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff happening. So like you said, we'll try to highlight best we can. That's kind of going to run down our list here for you this week. By the way, you still can smell salts during NFL games, so that's a good thing.
Well, I'll leave it to a guy from that one school with made-up mascot that's going to give you false information. So, exactly. Kid don't know what the hell he's talking about. As you can tell by that haircut.
Good stuff here this week. We've got plenty coming, of course. College football, heck, we're only a couple weeks away. So next week we certainly will be diving a little bit more into that. I think we're going to talk about who we think are some of our favorites as far as top teams in the Power Four conferences for the upcoming college football season, and maybe give you a few, dark horses or some outside of the mid-major team, so to speak, that could, jump up and have a good season this year as well. So give you a little bit of that insight here next week. And then, of course, it won't be long before we're just making straight up picks and plays for you as well. So make sure you are following us on social media. At Cherokee CP, at SJM Bets. Those are the handles there on Twitter, so we'll put stuff out there for you. Also, we would love it if you would like, share, subscribe to the podcast, available on all the major platforms, including our host at Spotify. And then like, subscribe, get the notifications, and share that YouTube channel as well. We've had plenty of stuff kind of coming back down that pike for you here recently, and we'll have plenty more because we'll start getting to those picks weekly during the college football season. So make sure you are locked in and getting those, and we'll get you that information. And of course, then we'll follow that up usually with the graphic stuff as well to get you the info on Twitter. So that's kind of a combination way to stay in touch with us and what we're looking at here coming into the season. If you have any feedback, we certainly would love that too. So reach out to us in any of those spaces, and we'd love to have your input on what, maybe it's topics, maybe it's a team that you think is going to do well, some great plays that you see heading into the season to make a little coin on the side. We'd love to hear from you. So let us know on that front also. So those are the ways that you can get in touch with us, and we hope you do that here as we get ready for a fun college football season. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another week of Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.